When a routine promotional interview erupted into chaos on late-night television, millions watched as Tom Cruise and Jimmy Kimmel's exchange transformed from cordial to catastrophic in minutes, leaving a studio audience stunned and a superstar storming off set. The stage lights at the El Capitan Theater burned a little brighter than usual last night. Perhaps they sensed what was coming. Tom Cruise, Hollywood's enduring action star, strode onto the set of Jimmy Kimmel Live with his trademark winning smile, waving to the enthusiastic audience as the show's band played the theme from Mission: Impossible. A routine promotional appearance for his latest blockbuster was about to become anything but routine. Kimmel rose from behind his desk, greeting Cruise with what appeared to be genuine warmth, though some viewers would later claim they noticed a certain glint in the host's eye. Something calculating, something waiting. The first 5 minutes proceeded as expected. Light banter about Cruise's dedication to performing his own stunts, an amusing anecdote about an on-set mishap, and obligatory footage from the new film. "So, Tom," Kimmel said during a transition, his voice taking on a subtly different tone, "incredible stunts as always. You're famous for pushing boundaries. Speaking of pushing boundaries," the shift was almost imperceptible, but Cruise's smile tightened slightly. Those familiar with his press appearances recognized the change, a professional who sensed the conversation veering off script. "I've always been curious," Kimmel continued, seemingly innocent yet deliberately pointed, "about how much influence certain controversial figures had on your career choices, particularly some you were close with years ago." The audience fell unusually quiet. Cruise maintained his composure, though a muscle in his jaw visibly tensed. "Jimmy, I'm here to talk about the film. It's something the whole team is proud of. And—" Sure, Kimmel interrupted, leaning forward. "But you can't deny public curiosity about the people who've shaped your life, especially when some of those relationships raised so many eyebrows." The camera caught Cruise's publicist at the edge of the set, suddenly alert. Cruise himself shifted in his seat, maintaining professionalism, though his eyes had darkened. "I've always been open about what inspires my work. The film we're discussing tonight was a collective effort by hundreds of talented people who—" "Come on, Tom," Kimmel pressed, his tone now unmistakably provocative. "You're known for control. Your sets, your image, your privacy. You can't expect people not to wonder what goes on behind the carefully constructed facade." The audience's discomfort was palpable. This wasn't the good-natured ribbing typical of late-night television. It was pointed, personal, and escalating. Cruise placed his hands on his knees, his knuckles whitening slightly. "I've been in this industry for over 40 years, Cruise responded, his voice measured but carrying an edge rarely heard in interviews. "I've always respected the media process, including this show, but there's a line between professional inquiry and deliberate provocation, Jimmy." Something shifted in the studio atmosphere, a recognition that this was no longer entertainment, but conflict unfolding live. Kimmel, perhaps sensing ratings gold rather than the ethical line being crossed, doubled down. "Is it provocation to ask questions people want answered? Or is it just uncomfortable when someone doesn't stick to your approved talking points?" Cruise's publicist was now having an intense whispered conversation with a producer. But Cruise himself sat straighter, eyes locking with Kimmel's. "What exactly are you trying to accomplish here?" Cruise asked, his celebrity veneer giving way to genuine irritation. "You invited me to discuss a project that hundreds of people poured their hearts into, and instead you're fishing for tabloid sound bites." Kimmel gave a dismissive laugh that caused several audience members to exchange uncomfortable glances. "That's rich coming from someone whose entire career is carefully manufactured moments. I'm just trying to have an authentic conversation for once." The tension crystallized in that moment. The pretense of friendly banter had completely evaporated. Cruise, known for his unfailing politeness regardless of provocation, was visibly reassessing the situation. His expression shifted from professional irritation to something rarer. Genuine offense. "You know, Jimmy, I've always considered you better than this," Cruise said, his voice quiet but carrying. "I believed you respected your guests and your audience enough to create something worthwhile, not just cheap provocation." The comment struck home. Kimmel's face flickered with what might have been shame before hardening into defensive hostility. "Don't lecture me about respect," Kimmel retorted, abandoning any remaining pretense of civility. "Not when your personal choices have raised so many questions. Maybe if you answered some of them instead of controlling every narrative, people wouldn't be so fascinated by what you're hiding." Several audience members audibly gasped. The line had been unmistakably crossed. Cruise's expression became stone, and the temperature in the studio seemed to drop by several degrees. "You want to do this?" Cruise asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "You want to turn what should be a professional conversation into personal attacks? That's your choice as a host, I suppose." The show's director frantically signaled to cut to commercial, but Kimmel waved him off, seemingly intoxicated by the raw moment unfolding on his stage. "I'm just asking what viewers are thinking," Kimmel replied, feigning innocence while twisting the knife deeper. "Isn't that what interviews are for? Or do you only appear when you can control every aspect of the conversation?" Cruise stood up slowly, a move that sent ripples of tension through the studio. For a moment the audience thought he might leave, but instead he turned to face Kimmel directly, no longer playing the role of accommodating guest. "In 35 years of interviews, I've dealt with tough questions, fair criticism, and genuine curiosity from journalists who approached their work with integrity," Cruise said, his voice steady but carrying an intensity that commanded attention. "What you're doing isn't journalism or entertainment. It's ambush tactics designed for clicks and views at the expense of basic human decency." Kimmel's expression flickered between surprise and defiance. He hadn't expected Cruise, known for maintaining composure regardless of provocation, to directly challenge him. "Oh, please," Kimmel scoffed, though his delivery lacked conviction. "Don't act like you're some kind of victim here. You've built an empire on controlling your image. I'm just trying to have a real conversation for once." "A real conversation?" Cruise repeated, incredulous. "Is that what you call blindsiding a guest with personal attacks? Is that what your show stands for now?" The audience was completely silent, witnessing something raw and unscripted in an industry built on careful calculation. Cruise's publicist had given up on subtle signals and was now openly arguing with the show's producer near the cameras. "My show stands for entertainment," Kimmel retorted, doubling down rather than diffusing. "Sometimes that means asking questions that celebrities don't want to answer." "There's a difference between challenging questions and deliberately trying to provoke someone for ratings," Cruise countered. "I've respected your platform for years, Jimmy. I've come on this show multiple times, shared stories, played along with your games. But this," he gestured between them, "this isn't entertainment, it's exploitation." The word hung in the air, landing with precision. Several audience members nodded in agreement, and Kimmel seemed to register that public sentiment wasn't aligning with his approach. For a moment, a flicker of regret crossed his face, offering a brief opportunity to salvage the situation. But pride overrode judgment. "That's rich coming from you," Kimmel said with a dismissive laugh that didn't quite mask his defensiveness. "Talking about exploitation while you—" "Careful," Cruise interrupted, his voice low but firm. "You're on dangerous ground, Jimmy." A tense silence stretched between them. The commercial break signal flashed again, more urgently this time. Kimmel glanced at it, then back at Cruise, something calculating in his expression. "We'll take a quick break," he announced, his casual tone jarring against the tension. "More with Tom Cruise when we return." The moment the on-air light dimmed, the studio erupted in frantic activity. Production assistants rushed to Cruise's side, while the show's executive producer converged on Kimmel. The audience buzzed with shocked conversations, many filming discreetly on their phones despite the strict no-recording policy. "What the hell was that?" Cruise demanded, not bothering to lower his voice or wait for privacy. "You ambushed me with personal attacks on live television. That wasn't what we agreed to." Kimmel's demeanor shifted once cameras stopped rolling, uncertainty replacing his on-air bravado. "Look, we're just trying to create compelling television. Audiences are tired of the same rehearsed promotional interviews." "So your solution is character assassination?" Cruise challenged. "There are 1,000 ways to create compelling content without resorting to cheap shots." The executive producer stepped between them. "Tom, we apologize for the misunderstanding. When we come back from break, we'll redirect to discussing the film." "Misunderstanding?" Cruise echoed in disbelief. There was no misunderstanding. This was deliberate. Kimmel, perhaps sensing his position weakening, attempted damage control. "Come on, Tom. It's just television. No one takes this stuff seriously." Those words seemed to crystallize something for Cruise. He looked at Kimmel with what could only be described as disappointment layered over anger. "That's where you're wrong," he said quietly. "Millions of people watch this show. What you say, how you treat people, it matters. It shapes culture. Or at least it should." The 30-second warning before returning to air sounded. Production assistants scrambled to reposition furniture and touch up makeup. The executive producer made one final appeal. "Tom, please, we can salvage this. Just take your seat, and we'll focus entirely on the film." Cruise looked at the seat, then back at Kimmel, who was adjusting his tie while studiously avoiding eye contact. "No," Cruise said simply. "I won't participate in this kind of ambush journalism masquerading as entertainment. Not when there are countless shows that manage to be both entertaining and respectful." The countdown to air reached 10 seconds. Panic rippled through the production team as they realized Cruise might actually walk off. Kimmel finally looked directly at Cruise, his expression a complex mixture of defiance and uncertainty. 5 seconds, called the floor director. Cruise removed his microphone with deliberate calm, placed it on the interview chair, and looked directly at Kimmel. "I respect your audience too much to continue this," he said, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent studio. "They deserve better." The on-air light flashed on as Cruise turned and walked off the set. The cameras captured Kimmel's stunned expression, frozen in a moment of unscripted reality that would soon dominate headlines across the entertainment world. "And we're back with—" Kimmel began automatically before registering the empty chair opposite him. The audience witnessed his professional mask slip as genuine panic flickered across his face. For perhaps the first time in his career, Jimmy Kimmel was completely unprepared. "Well," he said with a forced laugh that fell painfully flat, "it seems Tom has decided to step away for a moment." Murmurs rippled through the audience. Several people were already on their phones, undoubtedly sharing what they'd witnessed during the commercial break. In the age of social media, the story was already spreading beyond the studio walls. "While we're waiting," Kimmel continued, desperation edging into his voice, "let's take a look at another clip from—" "He's not coming back," a voice called from the audience, cutting through Kimmel's attempt at recovery. The cameras swung wildly, trying to identify the speaker while capturing Kimmel's reaction. The host's expression hardened, his embarrassment crystallizing into defensive anger. "Well, that's Hollywood for you," he said with bitter sarcasm. "Can't handle a few tough questions." The comment backfired immediately. Several audience members stood up and began walking out, a stunning development for a show that normally had a waiting list months long. Kimmel watched in visible disbelief as nearly a third of his audience departed in silent protest. Backstage, Cruise moved with purpose, his security team forming a protective barrier around him as they navigated toward the exit. The show's executive producer chased after them, pleading for reconsideration. "Tom, please," he begged. "We can fix this. One more segment. Whatever you want to discuss." Cruz paused, turning to face the desperate producer. The anger had faded from his expression, replaced by something resembling pity. "That's exactly the problem," he said quietly. "This isn't about what I want to discuss. It's about basic professional respect. Something your host seems to have forgotten is fundamental to this industry." In the studio, Kimmel was attempting damage control, his usual sharp wit failing him as he faced the uncomfortable reality of public disapproval in real time. "Folks, sometimes interviews get heated," he said, sweat visibly beading on his forehead. "That's show business. We'll have Tom back another time when he's feeling more conversational." The remaining audience members exchanged knowing glances. The narrative Kimmel was attempting to construct was crumbling before their eyes. Outside, the studio news vans were already arriving, alerted by the tsunami of social media activity. Cruz emerged from the building to a flurry of camera flashes and shouted questions. "Tom, what happened in there? Did Kimmel cross a line? Was this planned?" Rather than rushing to his waiting car, Cruz surprised everyone by approaching the media directly. His publicist moved to intervene, but Cruz gently waved her off. "I've always believed in treating people with respect," he said, his voice steady and measured. "That goes for hosts, audiences, and everyone in between. Tonight, that mutual respect was broken, and I made the decision not to participate further." He paused, considering his next words carefully. "This industry is challenging enough without turning interviews into ambushes. I hope tonight serves as a reminder that how we treat each other matters, on camera and off." With that, he nodded politely to the assembled reporters and stepped into his vehicle, leaving behind a media frenzy that would only intensify in the coming hours. Back in the studio, Kimmel was struggling through the remainder of his monologue, his usual confident rhythm replaced by awkward pauses and forced laughter. The damage was evident not just in the half-empty studio seats, but in the palpable disapproval from those who remained. By midnight, the incident had exploded across all platforms. The hashtag #ShockCruzWalksOff was trending worldwide, with celebrities and fans alike weighing in on the confrontation. Video clips from audience members' phones had gone viral despite the no-recording policy, showing aspects of the commercial break confrontation that the network would have preferred to keep private. Morning brought no relief for Kimmel. Major news outlets ran the story prominently, with entertainment analysts and industry insiders almost universally criticizing his approach. Network executives called an emergency meeting as sponsors began expressing concerns about their association. With the show now being described as ambush entertainment, for Cruz, the incident paradoxically enhanced his standing. His measured response, both during the interview and afterward, was praised as dignified and principled. Several influential directors and producers made public statements supporting his decision to draw a line against what they termed gotcha journalism masquerading as entertainment. 3 days later, as the controversy showed no signs of abating, Kimmel addressed the situation in his opening monologue. Gone was the defensive posture and dismissive attitude, replaced by a solemn demeanor rarely seen from the typically sardonic host. "I owe an apology," he began, the studio unusually quiet. "To Tom Cruise, to our audience, and to everyone who believes, as I used to, that entertainment can be compelling without being cruel." He paused, swallowing visibly. "In trying to create a moment, I forgot the human being across from me. That's not who I want to be as a host or as a person." The apology, seemingly genuine and uncharacteristically humble, marked the beginning of a slow rehabilitation for Kimmel's image. For the entertainment industry as a whole, the incident sparked a broader conversation about the fine line between provocative questioning and personal attack. 1 week after the confrontation, Cruz released a brief statement accepting Kimmel's apology and expressing hope that the incident would lead to more thoughtful approaches to celebrity interviews. He declined all requests to discuss the matter further, pivoting conversations back to his film and the hundreds of people whose work deserved recognition. The ratings for Jimmy Kimmel Live would take months to recover, while Cruz's film opened to record numbers, benefiting from the unexpected publicity. But beyond the immediate commercial impact, the confrontation had sparked something more significant. A moment of genuine reflection in an industry often accused of valuing sensation over substance. In the end, what began as an ambush interview had transformed into something neither man had anticipated, a catalyst for change in how media and celebrities interact, and a powerful reminder that even in Hollywood, some lines should never be crossed.